Hello, my name is Sophie, and welcome to part 2 of a review and summary of Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah! I do have a raging cold at the moment, so I apologise for any sniffling or hacking coughs that I may forget to cut out, and I also apologise if it sounds like I smoke 40 cigarettes a day, but the grind don't stop, so here I am. I will deliver, regardless of the circumstances. As I said before, this is part 2 of our review, so there is a whole hour and 20-minute video on my channel already that is the first half of this book, so I would recommend going and watching that first, but no worries if not, because I am going to do a little recap of all of the events that we went through together last time. One thing I won't go into this time, though, is the trigger warnings, because they're exactly the same as they were in the first half of the book. But yeah, I'm going to start off with a little summary of events from last time, and then we're just going to crack on. We're going to get straight into it. Brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. It gets pretty crazy pretty quickly. So, let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to crack straight into it. Let's get into the main plot points from the first half of the book. We met Celaena, our main character, Adelin's assassin. Now, she has been imprisoned in the salt mines of Indovia for a year of her life sentence, but she is freed by Dorian, the Prince of Adelin, and Kale, who is the captain of the guard. They come and they free her under the conditions that she takes part in a competition against a load of other criminals to become the king's champion, which basically means that she will do all of his dirty work. She's like his personal spy, his personal unaliver, all of that jazz. Yay! The premise of this competition is that her and all of these other criminals will compete in loads of different tests to assess their criminal and spy and best to ever do it capabilities, and whoever wins has to serve as the king's champion for a certain number of years, and then they are free. They can go and they can live their lives. But if they lose, they go back to whatever prison or whatever situation they were in before, they go back there. So if she loses, she has to go back to Endovia and serve the rest of her life sentence. Obviously she accepts because she doesn't really have any other choice. Then we head over to the castle. Now, Kale, who is the captain of the guard, he has been her mentor during this competition so far, and they've grown quite close through this forced proximity kind of situation. And we left off with Kale having come back from a feast, and he gave her a ring as a gift. So I think someone might have a little bit of a crush, just a little bit. Dorian's been MIA for the majority of the first half of the book, I'm not gonna lie. They do think each other's pretty hot, but other than that, when they talk to each other, they just end up like having a bit of an argument and one of them will storm off. So, but who cares? He thinks she's hot, she thinks he's hot. So, well, you know. Celaena has also made a friend called Nehemia, who is the princess of Ilway. The friendship came about because Nehemia can't speak the common language of Adelin, and Celaena, because she is the best to ever do it, she is obviously fluent in Ilway. They bonded over that, and also the fact that they kind of hate everyone in the castle, and so now they're besties, which is nice. Aww. Always good to have a friend. She's also made a bit of an ally in this competition, this guy called Nox. He is a thief and also a feminist. Full-time thief, full-time feminist. She's also made an enemy. You've got to make a couple of enemies in this. And his name is Kane. He's Duke Perrington's champion. And he is big and scary and evil, and we don't like him. He's a flop. Before their first test, a champion was found unalived just in a hallway. And this has become a pattern. A day or two before most of the tests, one of the champions has gone missing, and then they've later found them unalived in quite an unpleasant manner. This is quite a background plot at the moment, which is surprising, but through the second half of the book, this ramps up. We get to hear a lot more about this person or thing or whatever that is taking out the champions, because currently we don't know who or what it is. In terms of the competition as well, we have had a couple of tests. Nothing major, nothing to note. She's passed all of them, fine. She's staying in the middle of the pack because she's competing in this competition under an alias, because nobody's supposed to know that she is Selena Sardothian, Adeline's assassin, the best to ever do it. She's pretending to be this Lillian, who is a jewel thief, so that nobody can know that this girl that they're competing against is in fact the best to ever do it, the best assassin on the entire continent. A plot point that's kind of been simmering along with these unalivings of these champions is word marks. Now, they keep popping up around everywhere. There's some around the clock tower, there's some in a secret passage that Selena finds in this tomb. Nehemia is the one who told us that they are word marks, but she supposedly doesn't know anything about them. She knows what they are, but she doesn't know anything about them. So we're not quite sure what's going on with them, but they are definitely something to keep in mind going into the second half of the book, because they do become more relevant. And then finally, where we left off was Samhain. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, which was like a coming of winter celebration festival, and they had a feast for it, and Selena was not invited, so instead she discovered a secret passage in her room. The secret passage led to 3 different things. One of them was an exit out of the castle, one of them was a grate that she could look down on the feast, and then the final one, she didn't go down, but then she had a dream during the night where she did go down it. In this passage was a tomb of 2 very important historical figures, one of which, Elena, appeared to her as a ghost, an apparition. Ooh, and was like, hey! And she gave her a cute amulet to protect her, and also a side quest to find and defeat the evil in the castle. She didn't give us anything else to go on. That was pretty much it. So, yeah, we left off with Selena deciding the next day to go down into the passage, to look in this tomb and see if she could find any clues. And that is our main points. There are things that I haven't said, so like I say, if you want an in-depth recap, I would go and watch the first video, but that's kind of the main stuff. Let's crack on. We're starting on the beginning of chapter 26, page 190. The next morning after she discovers the secret passageway, she speaks to Elena in a dream, but psych, it wasn't a dream. She's got an amulet now and also a side quest, don't forget. The next morning, she's minding her business, laying in bed, thinking about life, and Kale busts in, demanding to know where she was the night before. Uh-oh. Selena's panicking. Girl's thinking, there's no way he can know that there's a secret passage in my room that I discovered yesterday and was wandering all around in last night. Surely not. But it turns out another champion was unalived last night, and naturally, he suspects her. Kale, come on. We've come too far for you to be thinking this. Also, this champion has been half eaten. Ew. I'm offended. On her behalf, I'm offended. Because it's pretty rude that Kale would suspect her, given those specifics. What the heck, bro? Anyway, obviously she says she was in her rooms. She does also blackmail him slightly. Kale says, just tell me plainly, where were you last night? She straightened, staring into his golden brown eyes. As my guards can attest, I was here the entire night. Though if the king wants me questioned, I can always tell him that you can vouch for me too. Oi oi. Kale glanced at her ring, and she hid her smile as a faint line of colour crept into his cheeks. He's blushing. I wonder why. But yeah, that works anyway. He stops questioning her. As soon as Kale's gone to investigate this most recent unaliving, she heads down into the secret passage in the tomb. She doesn't find anything, and she also isn't particularly keen on looking too hard, which is valid. If she was caught snooping around in all these secret passageways, she could definitely be done for a number of crimes. And also, the whole thing's pretty scary. It's pretty scary. I know she is Adeline's assassin, the best to ever do it, but girl's got enough on her plate. Cut her some slack. She decides to go to the library instead. On the way to the library, her and her guards stumble across the body of the unalived champion, just laying out there in the hall. There's a bunch of people around it, but it's just there.
Huh.
I suppose what they're supposed to do. They're investigating it. I won't go into too much detail, but there was certainly parts of him missing. He was not intact.
Oh my.
And there were also a load of word marks drawn around him. So the word marks are involved in this as well. The plot thickens. After this, there are now only 16 champions left, and 4 of them will make it into the final duel. So things are heating up pretty fast. After this, we shift to Dorian's POV. Him and Kale are sparring, and you know what that means? It's time for a checkup on how our 2 boys feel about our resident assassin. Let's see where we're at today. They're both pretty annoyed at each other because this is the first time they've seen the other since they both turned up at her room at the same time. So it's a bit awkward and they're a bit annoyed. They're both like, why were you there? Why were you there? And then they're both like, it's not what you think. It's not like that. I swear. Even though it definitely is what the other one thinks, because they both have a fat crush on her. Come on, just communicate. Dorian seems pretty concerned about Selena, which is very sweet, and Kale is definitely still erring on the side of she's a threat, which is disappointing. You spent way more time with her than Dorian has. Surely by now you know her better. Either that or Dorian's just a bit stupid. No offense, Dorian. Love you, King. Dorian's wondering if this mystery unaliver is like systematically going through and taking out all the champions, and if they need to be worried about Selena. And Kale's like, don't worry, I put more guards on her door. And Dorian's like, yeah, but did you do that to protect her or to keep her in there? Like, are you trying to keep her safe or keep everyone else safe? And Kel was like, what does it matter? Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, Kale definitely still is erring on the side of caution, whereas Dorian's fully like, she's hot, she would never do anything to harm anyone. Haha. You know, he's got the rose-coloured glasses on, and all he's seeing is a hot young woman, whereas Kale is obviously seeing an assassin, which is accurate. That afternoon, Selena and Nehemia are on a cheeky hot girl walk because all they seem to do around here is go for walks. As they're going past the clock tower, Selena again tries to ask Nehemia about the word marks, but Nehemia is still very defensive about this. She's still very defensive. She's like, I don't know anything. It's not worth it. Stop asking. Which is a little suspicious. But as they're walking past the clock tower, who turns up? Kane, along with one of his sidekicks, because he can't walk around alone. I don't know. He has to be followed by a crony of some sort. And Kane is seeming a lot bigger. I don't know what weights this man is lifting, but he is growing by the day. He's just... That was my impression of him. You should be scared. During their interaction here, Kane reveals a bombshell that he knows who Selena really is.
Oh my god!
Kane says, come on, hit me. Hit me with all that rage you feel every time you force yourself to miss the bullseye, or when you slow yourself down so you don't scale walls as fast as me. Hit me, Lillian, he whispered so only she could hear, and let's see what that year in Endovia really taught you. Uh-oh. Now, let's be real. I'm not particularly surprised that he does know who Selena is, because his sponsor is Perrington. Perrington was there when Dorian and Kel picked Selena up from Endovia, so Perrington knows who she is. Kane is Perrington's champion, so of course he'd want to give Kane every piece of information that he can to make sure that Kane has the best chance of winning the competition. So it only makes sense that he would tell Kane, really. I know that he was told not to, but come on. Selena's surprised, though. She's like, oh, he knows. Anyway, then they leave. That's it. She's like, okay, bye. And they just walk off. After this, we have a Kale POV. Kale is so desperate for Dorian to start using his brain and seeing Selena as a threat rather than a potential girlfriend. So he brings Dorian to watch Selena train. He thinks, he'll see how good she really is, and then he will fear her. But this backfires, because what really happens is Nox turns up to train with Selena, Dorian gets hella jealous, and then he leaves. Poor Kale. Better luck next time, buddy. A for effort, you know? Heading into chapter 28, Selena is trying to teach herself billiards. She sucks at it, which is so exciting. We finally found something that Selena is not the best to ever do it at, guys. Celebration time. I'm so happy. She's having a bit of a temper tantrum. She's mad. She can't figure it out. She fully like bites the cue, screams at it. Like she's having her leg chopped off and she's using it to like muffle her screams, which is really embarrassing. But thank goodness she's on her own. No one can see her except Psych. Dorian's been there the whole time. And he did in fact watch her temper tantrum. He thinks it's hilarious. We're in his POV now. And he offers to teach her to play.
Aww.
She accepts and he uses the oldest and most shameless trick in the book. His words, not mine, where he like puts his arms around her.
Wow.
And he's like, this is how you do it, you know, you get the stick and then like, and he's like holding her hand as he does it. He shows her, very sweet, very romantic, very cringe. Be original, Dorian. Be original. Come on. Anyway. They end up having an actual conversation. Or, am I reading this right? I am. They have their first, like, proper civil conversation of the whole book. They learn stuff about each other, about their hopes and their dreams. He realizes that not only is she really hot, but she also has brain cells. Haha, could she really get any better? A girl who has logical and sensible thoughts about the world and life. He wants to know everything about her. He's bewitched. Find yourself a girl that can do both. So yeah, Dorian and Selena's relationship has upgraded to they've had an actual conversation now. We're making strides. The next day, they have another test. In this test, they have to fight each other, and whoever wins is safe. And then Brullo picks out of the losers as to who is the ultimate loser, and then they are kicked. They are gone. Selena's paired with this guy called Verin, who is one of Kane's cronies. I haven't mentioned him before, I don't believe, because he's irrelevant. But he does make the mistake of insulting her before they fight. And because of that, Selena absolutely demolishes him in about 3 moves. Yeah. She doesn't even use her sword. Like, she barehanded just beats him into the ground in, like, literally 3 moves. She is an inspiration to us all. And after she does this, she, like, stalks up to Kane. Dun, 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 dun. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Anyway, she stalks up to Kane and she says, "Here I am," she said, squaring her shoulders. "Just a little lapdog." Kane's black eyes gleamed. "All I hear is yapping." They sound like they're going to start writing diss tracks about each other. Give me a beat. Presumably either later the same day or the next day, Kale and Selena have a moment. Like an actual moment. They're doing archery practice in this like abandoned hallway, and she's holding the bow, and then they like make eye contact, and Kale's like, "You're gonna miss. You're 2 centimeters to the left of the target," or something. And Selena's like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Fine then. Fire the arrow." And she's like, "I will." And then she like keeps looking at him as she lets go of the arrow, and she does miss. He was right. But anyway, after she fires the arrow, these 2 guards come and interrupt them. Thank God, because what the hell was that? And tell them that another champion has been unalived. And Kale says to Selena, "You know what? You've been wanting to prove yourself this whole time. Come with me. Let's do some detective work." And Selena's like, "Yes." A chance to finally prove myself. They get to the unalived champion, and turns out it's Verin, the guy that she fought yesterday. You know what Jojo Siwa says. "I'm as a bitch, I should've known better. If I had a wish, I would've never turned around." You know? And she's right. Selena locks in and uses her assassin, best to ever do it, beast mode skills to deduce that it may actually be a person who is summoning a creature that is unaliving these champions, and not just a person. She does also put 2 and 2 together and realizes that maybe whoever is doing this and taking out all of these champions is the same evil that Elena was talking about when she told Selena that she needed to find it and defeat the evil in the castle.
Wow.
And I must admit, I'm not quite sure what else Elena would have been talking about, but I'm glad that Selena's got there. I'm glad we're on the same page now, because I was already there, but that's okay. We all get there in our own time. Anyway, Kale is shocked by this news that maybe someone is summoning something that's taking out the champions. So Selena did it. She did prove herself. She said something that Kel had not yet thought of, and we applaud her for it. And then later, Selena's doing some research in her room, and Dorian turns up for some more flirting, and they have their third conversation in like 229 pages. Go, guys. Get it. They learn some stuff about each other. Dorian touches her hand. It's cute. It's romantic. Blah, blah, blah. It's very tense and all that. Good for them. Later that night, Selena is minding her business, sleeping. She wakes up all of a sudden, and Elena is standing ominously at the end of her bed. Just. And she looks at her and goes, "Hello, child." Oh, girl, that's creepy as hell. What the heck? Anyway, Elena has come to remind Selena yet again that she must win the competition. She's also come to give her some more cryptic advice. Elena says, "I came here to warn you to keep an eye on your right." Excuse me? Selena cocked her head. What does that mean? Look to your right. You'll find the answers there. Selena looked to her right, but all she saw was the tapestry that concealed the tomb. She opened her mouth to snap a response, but when she looked back at Elena, the queen was gone. Who's surprised? Not me. So, Selena is just left wondering what in the world this woman is on about. Moving on. The next day, they have another test. The test is poisons. So they're given a bunch of goblets with a load of different poisons and stuff in, and they have to work out which poison is which and then label them from least dangerous to most dangerous. And then the kicker is, at the end, they have to drink the one that they have labeled the least dangerous. They do have antidotes, but that's still going to be an unpleasant experience, and the person who gets the most wrong is out. So there's like 3 minutes left. Selena's got 2 goblets left, and she cannot work out which one is which. She's got 2 goblets, 2 spaces, one at the front, one at the end. So she's now got to fill the most dangerous and the least dangerous spots. One of the glasses looks like water, smells like water. The other one looks like wine, smells like wine. And she's like, she's stumped. She's struggling. She glances over to her right, where Pelor, self-proclaimed Poison's Whiz, is standing. And he's got the same 2 goblets left as she does. He puts the one with the water in as the most dangerous and the one with the wine in as the least. Now, Selena's like, Then it clicks, and she remembers what Elena said. Look to your right. Pella is on her right. Pella knows poisons. Pella is nodding at her. And then she's like, oh, he's telling me that that's the right order. And he's right, they win. Woo! No antidote drinking for them. Turns out the water had like this super, super, super bad one in called Bloodbane. And if you drink it, you're gonzo. So it's a good thing she didn't put that one as the least dangerous. Nobody else is quite as lucky. Even Kane ends up drinking an antidote. So, but even though Elena has helped her in this, Selena is still not particularly keen on helping her. Now, in this next chapter, I do become a Dorian hater for a short period of time, and there is a valid reason why. So let's get to it. Selena and Nehemia go on a little walk again, and they have a very touching friendship moment where Nehemia's like, I'll be here for you no matter what happens, blah blah blah. And Selena's like, that's so sweet, because she's never really had any friends that were girls. Normally they all hate her because she's the best to ever do it, and they're all jealous. So yeah, that's very sweet. And then it gets even sweeter because they head over to the kennels and there are puppies. I love puppies. Dorian is there as well. He's disappointed because he's got a bunch of puppies and they're not purebreds. And I'm out here thinking, and they're still cute, no? Then it gets even worse because there's this one puppy who's hiding in the corner and she's just not as friendly as the other ones, and she just doesn't like anyone. And Selena's like, oh, that one's so cute, you know. The outcast in her relates to the outcast in the puppy. But then Dorian drops the bomb of the century and says that if it won't like humans, then they're gonna have to unalive it. I'm sorry? That is the biggest red flag to ever exist. What do you mean you're just going to take out this dog? It's not done anything to you. What do you mean? I was so angry. If he unalives that dog, me and him, we're going to have issues. We're going to have issues. And Selena thinks the same. Me and Selena, we're on the same page with this one, because what do you mean? That would have been it. I would have never spoken to that man again. just because it's not a purebred, and if it's not a purebred, then they just make them pets. They just give them to people as pets, you know, because they can't race or hunt with them or whatever they do with the rest of the dogs. He's fully like, if we can't make it interact well with humans, we're just gonna have to take it out. The rage that filled me. I don't know what to say.
Huh.
But yeah, Selena is as horrified as me, thankfully. And she does make Dorian promise not to unalive this puppy. There must be something in the air in these kennels, because even Nehemia is like, if its spirit is strange, then it would be a burden. Ha! What do you mean? Oh my lord, these people are crazy! What do you mean you're gonna take out the little innocent puppy? I hate them all. Anyway, after Selena literally saves this poor puppy's life, Selena and Nehemia leave, and Nehemia's all like, ooh, you got a crush on the prince. But then Selena just loses it for a second. Selena's head whipped around, her eyes full of long-forgotten fury that made her belly ache and twist. I would sooner cut out my own heart than love a Haviliad, she snarled.
Wow.
Okay, girl, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Goodness. So yeah, that was a bit awkward. Her and Nehemia part ways after that, because yikes. But as she's walking back to her room, she's like staring out the window, being like, oh, rah. You know, I don't know. She's contemplating life. And Cain comes along, but he is not his usual poo-poo, stinky little self. He's acting pretty crazy. He looks like he's choking himself. He's got his hand around his own throat and he's like gasping like a fish. He seems to have grown another 15,000 sizes. Bro's just growing by the day. And then he just like sprints away at mega super speed. And Selena's like, okay. But she's getting some bad vibes about this. Something's not sitting right. So she sends a message to Nox and also to Pella to tell them to stay in their rooms that night, which is very thoughtful of her and probably also smart, and she does the same. The next chapter, chapter 33, Adeline's army captured and unalived 500 Ilway rebels. Obviously, Nehemia is the princess of Ilway, and she is just absolutely devastated, understandably so. So her and Selena kind of have got over whatever that strange moment was between them the other day, and Selena is trying to console her, but she's also like, how can I possibly ever work for this man who is able to do that to other people? How do I move on from this? I don't know. But yeah, so that's a bit of a downer. Moving swiftly on though, chapter 34, and Selena's on her period. Great. Yeah, it's come back after all that starvation in Endovia, but she has some really bad cramps, and she is feeling unwell. Poor girl. As she's hunched over, you know, in agony, Kale comes in. And Selena does try to tell him that now is not a good time. She's not feeling well. But Kale thinks that she means, like, metaphorically, you know, about all of the unaliving of the Ilway rebels, which obviously is true, but also that's not quite what she was meaning. And he launches into a very deep and very meaningful speech about how he knows that he's strict with her, but he's really pleased that she's friends with Nehemia. And as he's saying all of this, she's starting to feel really icky. But she's like, no, I'm not gonna puke. Kale never opens up like this. He is not going to be inclined to do so again if this is how he's rewarded. Then he admits that he might have been wrong. He doesn't say about what, but I'm assuming it's like maybe her, or maybe it's his loyalty, in his unwavering loyalty to the king, that he's wrong. I'm not quite sure. But now Selena's thinking she's definitely gonna vom, and she does try to warn him, but he's on a roll now with his speech, and then he starts asking her if she wants to, but he doesn't get to finish. Because then she does vomit all over the floor. Thankfully not on him, but, you know, yikes. Anyway, he practically runs away when he finds out why she was sick. My monthly cycles finally came back. His face suddenly matched hers, and he stepped away, dragging a hand through his short brown hair. Then I'll take my leave, he stammered and bowed. Selena raised an eyebrow and then, despite herself, smiled as he left the room as quickly as his feet could go without running, tripping slightly in the doorway as he staggered into the rooms beyond. Bro, come on. That's so embarrassing. However, Dorian then comes in, and let me tell you, His response is about 5,000 times worse, because instead of being like, oh, and like running away, he just belittles it. He's like, oh, it can't be that bad. Let me read you a quote from him, actually, so we can compare the two. He comes in and says, I intercepted Kale, and he informed me of your condition. You'd think a man in his position wouldn't be so squeamish, especially after examining all of those. Selena opened an eye and frowned as Dorian sat on her bed. I'm in a state of absolute agony, and I can't be bothered. It can't be that bad, he said, fishing a deck of cards from his jacket. Want to play? I already told you that I don't feel well. You look fine to me. Oh my gosh. Oh, we need to get one of those period cramp simulators, right? And just stick them all over him. Then, let's see if he thinks it's not that bad. Oh my lord. Oh, don't piss me off, man. You're already on thin ice after the whole dog comment. And now this. Ooh. He's lucky he's fictional, because if not, we would be fighting right now. Physically. Deary me. He does say that he feels really bad about the whole unaliving of all the Ilwe rebels, but I would say that's like the bare minimum. The bare minimum. And because we were already on a roll with like the tangents and everyone doing speeches in front of Selena, he does one as well about how he feels terrible about the fact that he doesn't stand up to his father and he knows the world shouldn't be like this and blah, blah, blah. And I agree. You know where a great place to start would be? To stop belittling women's pain. Huh? That's a good place to start, yeah? Yeah? Let's do that. Oh, goodness. He does get better in the next books, but lord, he's really not doing himself any favours. Anyway, he also lets slip about the Yulmus ball. It's like this masked ball, and she's not invited again, so just to make her feel even better. By the way, not only are you in agony, living in fear, but also there's another ball that you can't attend, another event. You're just not allowed. I'm on my last straw with this man. Okay. The next evening, and chapter 35, Kale is having a crisis on a balcony. Balcony crisis. He's watching Selena and Dorian walking around in the courtyard outside, and he thinks he should be down there, a foot behind, watching them, making sure she didn't seize Dorian and use him to escape. Logic and years of experience screamed at him to be with them, even though 6 guards trailed them. She was deceitful, cunning, vicious. But he couldn't make his feet move. With each day, he felt the barriers melting. He let them melt. Because of her genuine laugh. Because he caught her one afternoon sleeping with her face in the middle of a book. Because he knew that she would win. She was a criminal, a prodigy, a queen of the underworld. And yet she was just a girl, sent at 17 to Endovia. So, what I'm getting from that is that Kale is down bad. He's down bad for Selena. No, I'm down bad crying at the gym. I don't know any of the other words. But you get the point. Bless his heart. And we've got to love growth and the realization that people can have layers and contain multitudes and be different people outside of what they do for a living. You know, she might be an assassin, but she's also just a girl. And he finally seems to be realizing that. He definitely still sees her as a threat, though. Don't get it twisted. He always has. But, you know, he's still got a crush. Then we skip over to Selena's POV, and her and Dorian are having a walk through the courtyard, and they're also being stared at by Kale on a balcony. During this, we learn that it's been 3 weeks since the poisons test, and they've had 3 more tests. Pella has now been eliminated, but good on him for sticking it out as long as he did. You know, he was only a little guy. He's done very well. There's also been 3 more champion unalivings. So now there's only 6 of them left, which is crazy. The numbers have dropped rapidly. A little bit later, Selena's back in her rooms and she drops the book that she's reading under her bed. So she crawls on under there to grab her book, and drawn under her bed are just circles and circles of word marks. Oh no. And obviously her mind goes instantly to someone's like cursing me. They're drawing these word marks under my bed to try and take me out. Like, I am a target right now. Someone's coming for me. Oh no. So she does the logical thing and just washes them away as fast as humanly possible. And then she gets out of her rooms. You know, she wants to be as far away from them as possible. And she thinks, I'm going to go into the library to see if I can do any more research and also to get away from whatever's going on in there. When she gets there, Nehemia's there. Okay. She hasn't seen Nehemia since the incident with the Ilway rebels. So Nehemia's been keeping to herself pretty much since then. She's been staying in her room. So Selena's quite surprised to see her. She's even more surprised when she looks at what Nehemia's reading, and it's just this fat tome in Adelanian, not in Ilway. And obviously Selena's like, wow, that's a really big book. Why are you reading this book? And Nehemia's response is rather shocking. What are you reading? Nehemia slammed the book shut and stood. Nothing. Selena observed her face. Her lips were pursed, and the princess lifted her chin. I thought you couldn't read at that level yet. Nehemia tucked the book into the crook of her arm. Then you're like every ignorant fool in this castle, Lillian, she said with perfect pronunciation in the common tongue. Not giving her a chance to reply, the princess strode away. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. This is bad. So, this means that the whole time Nehemia and Selena had been friends. Nehemia has been lying to her about the fact that she couldn't speak Adelanian. She, in fact, has been fluent in Adelanian this whole time and has just been putting on a facade. I was really shocked by this, to be honest. Selena had thought that she could trust Nehemia, and she thought that Nehemia trusted her, but clearly not, because she's been keeping this massive secret from her. I'm really sad for Selena as well, because she thought she had a real friend, a true friend, and she hadn't had many of those before. She really struggles to trust people, obviously, in her line of work. Trust is very hard to come by. Yeah, I just feel really bad that her trust been betrayed like that. It gets even worse, though, because as Nehemia walks away, a piece of paper falls out of the book, and when Selena picks it up, it has a word mark on it, which means that not only has Nehemia been lying about not being able to speak the common tongue, but she's also been lying about how much she knows about the word marks. So just in all aspects of everything, Nehemia has been lying to Selena, which, I'm heartbroken for her. And obviously Selena's shocked. She's grappling with this. She's thinking, why would she lie? She's my friend. She came to me when her people were unalived. We trust each other. But when you think about it, as far as Nehemia is aware, Selena is Lillian, a member of the royal court. So, in Nehemia's mind, Selena must support the king to some extent. Of course, she wouldn't trust her with anything that she wouldn't trust the rest of the people here with. She's got no obligation to tell her any of this stuff. So, I do kind of get it, because I think she'd be a lot more inclined to be spilling her secrets if she knew that Selena was who Selena is. However, the word mark on the piece of paper does implicate Nehemia in all of this evil that's going on in the castle, because there have been word marks popping up everywhere, around all of these unalived champions. There have been word marks under Selena's bed. There are word marks. So Selena's mind obviously is going, oh my god, is she involved in the unalivings of these champions? This is terrible. Especially because she's the only one that we know right now that has any knowledge of the word marks, and the fact that she's writing word marks down on pieces of paper willy-nilly does suggest that she knows a lot more about them than she was originally letting on. The thing is, Selena does understand why Nehemia would want to be taking out the champions, because, unaliving them would instill fear in the castle, but it would have the least consequence because all of these people are criminals. But obviously the logical next step is that if she's the one that's unaliving the champions, she must also be the one that's putting the word marks under Selena's bed. And if that's the case, why is she targeting Selena? Like, it's all well and good unaliving the other champions, but if her and Selena are friends, why is she now targeting Selena? And also, if she was targeting Selena specifically, why would she even bother pretending to be friends with her? There are so many questions. Nehemia is currently implicating herself in all of these unalivings. Like, it's not looking good for her. Girl, please. We like you. Don't disappoint us like this, I beg. It's rough. It's rough out here. Alright. Chapter 36. It's Christmas. I mean, it's Yumas. Jingle bells, jingle bells. This means that there are only 3 days until the final test, and 5 days until the duel. Crazy. It's coming around fast. And Selena still hasn't told anyone about her theories about Nehemia because she hasn't got any concrete proof, but it's in the back of her mind. Dorian gets her a present, very sweet. It is the weird puppy that he was going to unalive a couple chapters ago.
Huh.
That is cute. It is sweet of him, absolutely, but I'm not quite sure what the thought was behind that. And Selena does say, "What am I going to do with her? You couldn't find an owner, so you decided to give her to me." "No," he said. "Well, yes." Huh? Huh? Just lie. Why would you say that? Lord. Tell us you put no effort into getting someone a Christmas present without telling us, except he did tell us. He's really embarrassing, but we can't complain too much because she didn't get anything for him. Not that there would be any opportunity for her to get anything for him. She can't leave the castle. Obviously, she decides to keep it, but she does say that she needs her to be trained and exercised and everything. Props to Sarah, she does think of everything. There will be no magically toilet-trained puppies in this book. Selena thinks about how kind and thoughtful Dorian is and how, he's just not like all of the other spoiled rich people that she knows. And to that, I say, the bar is on the floor. Please, girl, stand up. He got you a dog that he couldn't give to anyone else, that you had made him promise not to unalive. Otherwise, he would have just taken it out. You gave him no choice, and then he couldn't find a home for it, so he was like, aha, I know, give it to her for Christmas. That is not... No. On top of that, he's also used you for his amusement throughout the whole competition, insulted you many times, many times. Obviously the whole dog thing. And he also belittled the pain that you go through every month as a woman. Please explain to me how this man is thoughtful. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. Anyway, she gives him a little peck on the cheek. Oh. And he gets all flustered and says that he'll come and visit her after the ball tonight. Yay. That, though, triggers Selena into panicking about the fact that Nehemia is going to go to this ball, and that's kind of prime opportunity for revenge against the king for the unaliving of a load of her people. So Selena's like, uh-oh. And then she hatches a dastardly plan, and I bet you can't guess what it is. She's going to sneak into the ball. Who said that? She does think about how annoyed Kale will be, though. Kale would be beyond furious if she infiltrated the ball, but she could handle it. She could handle it if he decided to throw her in the dungeons for a little while too, because somehow the thought of him getting hurt, or worse, made her willing to risk just about anything. Notice how the only one she mentioned in that sentence was Kale? And after Dorian gave her a dog and everything. Better luck next time, Prince. Her and Kale then go to this temple service, and they fall asleep on each other's shoulders, and it's kind of really cute. Now it is time for the ball. Selena is ready, she is looking beautiful, she is feeling beautiful, she's got this gorgeous poofy princess dress on with like sparkles all over it, and she's got a pretty sparkly mask and a tiara to go with it, and her and Philippa put on this big show to try and trick the guards into thinking that Dorian had invited her to the ball so that they don't question it, because obviously Kale must have told them that she wasn't invited and she's not allowed to go, because he knows her. Surely he would know that she try something like this. But yeah, Philippa's like, go, you're going to be late. Go, go, go. The prince is going to be so mad if you're late. Go. And Selena's like, I'm going to be late. And the guards, they just don't question it. They're like, oh, you look so pretty. Save a dance for me. And I'm like, you've got to be two of the stupidest people to ever exist. And they escort her there. No questions asked. Nothing. Just straight over their stupid little heads. But it works in her favour. So that's all good. Then we switch to Dorian's POV, just in time for her to make her grand entrance. Obviously everyone's already there, which gives them the perfect opportunity when the massive doors open at the top of the massive staircase, like it does in movies, to all turn around and watch her and stare as she descends the stairway, looking beautiful and amazing. And Dorian is just gobsmacked, because he wasn't expecting her, and he also wasn't expecting her to look so slay, and he's thinking, I should go to her and ask her to dance. But before he can get there, Kale arrives. And this man, he's just so bummed But he just like hangs his head and just dejectedly trudges away, broken inside. Poor buddy. He needn't have worried though, because we're back in Selena's point of view, and the reason that Kale came over to her first was not to tell her she looked beautiful and to ask her to dance, but instead to give her a stern talking to. So yeah, Dorian didn't have anything to worry about, because Kale's just cheesed her off now. She does manage to convince Kale to let her stay, and she heads off to suss the situation out. Because, let's not forget, she's here to protect people, not for a good time. Nehemia is sitting up with the queen, and she's looking pretty stable at the moment. She looks over and sees Dorian, who obviously is standing dejectedly in the corner. No, he's not. He's dancing with this very pretty lady and just staring straight at her boobs. Boo. Not boobs. Boo. Now, I know he's probably doing it to make her jealous, but that's just a massive ick. Like, can't you just go over to her and say, you look so beautiful, do you want to dance? That's so immature. We had to bring some other woman into it and use her as a prop. He has to be like, I must make her jealous by dancing with other women and looking at their breasts.
Ew!
Anyway, she stands and she watches everything for an hour. Kale doesn't ask her to dance, because he's a flop. Nehemia unalives 0 people, and Dorian is still dancing with the big boobed brunette. Alliteration. Then Nehemia comes on over and they have a super awkward conversation. You look beautiful, Lillian, Nehemia said in the common tongue, her accent as thick as it had ever been. It felt like a slap in the face. She'd spoken with perfect fluency that night in the library. Was she warning Selena to keep quiet about it? Yeah, so it's a bit awkward, really. Nehemia says she's not feeling very well and is leaving. Then she heads on out. It's a shame. I feel like their friendship's over now. Selena's having a mental argument with herself about how something could still happen. But no, Nehemia wouldn't hurt anyone. Even if she didn't hurt anyone tonight, it doesn't mean that she's innocent. But then, she should have a bit of fun, you know, why doesn't she get out there and stuff? So she does ask Kale to dance, and he does say, with you? No. Bro, harsh, damn. And that upsets her, obviously. So he then explains that it's because Perrington's like right over there, which is okay, fair enough, fair enough. Then Selena asks him why he isn't dancing with anyone. And he says, I'm the captain of the guard. I'm not exactly a catch for any of them. There was some sorrow in his eyes, though it was well concealed. Are you mad? You're better than everyone in here. And you're very handsome, she said, taking his hand in her free one. There was beauty in Kale's face, and strength and honor and loyalty. She stopped hearing the crowd, and her mouth became dry as he stared at her. How had she missed it for so long? You think so? He said after a moment, looking at their clasped hands. She tightened her grasp. Why, if I wasn't... And then Dorian interrupts. This man is pissing me off. Oh my goodness. Please. And Selena is fickle as hell, because tell me why. She looks away from Kale, who she was just calling handsome, strong, honourable, loyal, blah blah blah. Takes one look at Dorian, and her blood turns to shooting stars. Ah? You give me hope, and then you rip it away, I swear to God. Anyway, Dorian asks her to dance, and she's like, yes, of course I'll dance with you. And Kel's like, honestly, I give up, I'm going to get a drink. And I don't blame him, I would be over there with him. Selena's like watching him walk away and she feels bad, but then Dorian touches her back, and she looks at him and just forgets all about Kel. He just dissolves from her mind. Yikes. Honestly, Kel's too good for you, girl. You don't deserve him. Dorian's all like, I haven't been able to stop staring at you all night. And I'm all like, you weren't staring at her when you were staring at everyone else's boobs, but okay.
Oh my god!
Selena does mention this, not quite in the same way that I did. She was more like, it took you a long time to ask me to dance. Maybe it was because of the long line of other ladies that you had waiting to dance with you. And he says, I'm here now, aren't I? Or something.
Ew!
Which is not what she wanted to hear, and it's also not what I wanted to hear. That's the same as saying, I know I ignored you all night and stared at everyone else's boobs, but I'm here now, so why are you annoyed? That's in fact exactly what he's saying. But apparently, she has no standards. because she dances with him anyway. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. You know? Girl, stand up. You're the best to ever do it. You are Adeline's assassin. And yet, you're putting up with this nonsense. Stand up. I beg. Know your worth. We now have a switch to Dorian's POV, and they're dancing, and he is just having the greatest time of his life. Obviously, they're both professional dancers, because he's a prince, so he's probably been professionally trained, and she's the best to ever do it. So it just comes naturally, I suppose. He's also thinking that it's rude to only dance with one person, but he doesn't care. But I'm sure he was only dancing with the lady whose boobs he was staring at the whole time before he danced with Selena. And he didn't seem to be caring about it then, so I'm not really sure how it's relevant. Bro's good at dancing, but he is not good at maths. Next up is Kale. Bless his soul. He's watching them, trying to convince himself that he wasn't going to dance with her anyway. He is coping, but it's alright. Like, we love you, Kale, I understand. And then some rando man called Otho comes up to him to snoop about Selena. He asks if she's with Dorian. Kale says no, and then Otho, the stupid man, says, "That's strange." Why? Kale had the sudden urge to strangle him. "Because it looks like he's in love with her," he said, and walked away. Kale's eyes lost focus for a moment. Then Selena laughed, and Dorian kept staring at her. The prince hadn't once taken his eyes off her. Dorian's expression was full of something. Joy? Wonder? Ugh. Otho, why would you say that? Why? Kale thinks to himself, what does that man know? He's just a drunk man. He doesn't know anything. It's fine. But he's also thinking it's okay because he did not say that she was in love with him. He just said that he was in love with her. So it's fine. You know, she definitely doesn't feel the same. So it's all good. It's all good. Kale, sweetie, that's an awful lot of weight to put on the words of a drunk man. But it's all right. We understand. Anyway, it gets to around 3 o'clock in the morning, and Selena, sneaks away while Dorian goes to get a drink. I'm sorry, but if you were having such a good time, why are you not saying goodbye? Why are you sneaking away? Doesn't matter, though, because when she gets back to her rooms, Dorian's already there, waiting for her, which is a bit creepy. And he does that, arm above the head thing, where he, puts his arm on the wall above her head. Whoa. Very romance novel. And then he kisses her. Shocking. It's nice. She likes it. All that jazz. His mouth was warm. His lips were smooth. Ugh. She liked it. Moving on. But then she snaps back to reality. And she thinks, why am I doing this? I've just come out of Endovia. He's a prince. And she, scurries into her room. And then he kisses her again. And she nearly falls over. It's okay, though. Then we head over to Dorian's POV. And he is fully in love with this woman. Something shifted very quickly here. He is fully committed to making this relationship work, regardless of what anyone thinks. Slow the frick down, bro. You've had about 3 conversations. You spent most of it annoying her. You spent most of tonight looking at some other woman's boobs. You just had your first kiss with her tonight. Calm yourself, please. For another thing, Selena is definitely not taking this as seriously as he is. Because she's thinking, that was so fun, I had such a good time, he's hot and funny, he. Whereas he's thinking, I will make this relationship work, damn the consequences, we will be together. That's a lot. Anyway, just to top it all off, we then jump over to Kale's POV, and he is literally staring up at her balcony, sadly, dejectedly. I know I've said that already once in relation to Dorian, but Kale really is feeling dejected. I have to read you this quote because it's so sad. In the garden, the captain of the guard stared up at the young woman's balcony, watching as she waltzed alone, lost in her dreams. But he knew that her thoughts weren't of him. That poor man, he doesn't deserve this. Anyway, chapter 40, and we're on to Caltaine's point of view. We haven't seen her in a while. She's been around, I suppose, but none of the things were relevant, so I just haven't mentioned it. But now it is. Her and Duke Perrington are having a little wander through the palace greenhouse. She's thinking about how ugly he is, and she hates him and all that, when he says that he saw her watching Dorian at the ball last night, and she's thinking, oh no, he's caught me. He's caught me lusting after another man. This is terrible. But instead, Duke Perrington says that the girl he was with, which is Selena, not the big boob girl, is rather troublesome. Then he comes out and spills the beans about her true identity and how she is Adelin's assassin and the best to ever do it. Kaltain is shocked. And she is all for stopping this witch before she ensnares Dorian and ruins him. During their conversation, she gets this terrible headache and she's thinking, ow, I could really do with some good stuff. Because, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, but Kaltain does like to smoke a bit of the good stuff. She's a fan, if you know what I mean. So she's thinking about that quite a lot during this. But then, Perrington tells her that the king thinks that drastic measures need to be taken to stop Selena and to ensure that Cain wins the final duel. Then, he asks for Kaltain's help. What could he possibly want, I wonder? It turns out that before the final duel, the champions drink like a toast. And they want her to, preside over this toast and be the one to give it to them. But before she gives it to them, him and the king want her to slip a little something in Selena's drink so that her senses are marred. And the something that they want Kaltain to put in her drink is, in fact, bloodbane. You know that stuff from earlier that was super, super dangerous, the most of the dangerous, a little bit can just take you out. That's the stuff. So Kaltain's out here why do we need to do this? Cain is massive. How does she stand a chance against him? Surely we don't need to be doing this. What are you on about? But then she starts thinking about Dorian. And if she does this, he will be hers. Perrington says it's only to just, we just want to make sure that there's no chance she can win. And Kaltain's sold. She's like, I'm on it. Don't worry. Dorian will be mine. Chapter 41. Selena is doing more research into the word marks. The grind don't stop for this girl, honestly. She stays researching. She's also going back and forth with herself about whether Nehemia could possibly be responsible for all of this, when, in a book that she's reading, she finds the same symbols that she had seen around the two unalive champions that she's seen. And next to these symbols was a handwritten note saying, for sacrifices to the Ridorak, using the victim's mark the area around it accordingly. Once the creature has been summoned, these marks guide the exchange. For the flesh of the sacrifice, the beast will grant you the victim's strength.
Wait a minute!
Let's think about this. Who do we know who has been getting bigger and stronger this whole competition? The whole time we've been here, who do we know? Oh, Cain. Ooh! Who did that? Who said that? I didn't hear anything. Anyways, in case you are wondering how the word marks work, because obviously magic no longer exists in the land, it's because apparently they are a source outside of magic. It's not the same thing, they're separate. Selena's now fully swung back in the direction of Nehemia being responsible for all of this. Which is an interesting take, because I feel like we've just discussed the whole whoever's summoning the creature is gaining the strength of the champions that are being unalived, and there is one person who seems to have, every time she sees him, she's like, wow, he's so much bigger this time. I thought he was smaller last time. He seems to grow every time I see him. Whereas that's not been the case with Nehemia. But, that's fine. But the reason she's now convinced that it must be Nehemia is because the thought strikes her that Nehemia may not be trying to save her people and spare them from further harm, but she might be trying to start a rebellion, which obviously would be about inciting more violence rather than lessening it, which I don't think it's not the strongest argument. Selena has been betrayed a lot by Nehemia recently, so I do understand her train of thought. So she's thinking, oh, this is bad, I must stop her. The last test is in 2 days, and it tends to be 2 or 1 days before the test that the unaliver strikes. And therefore, Nehemia must be prepping to strike as we speak. It's imminent. She also decides that the secret passages must be how Nehemia is travelling with this creature, because how else would she be getting around the castle? So she heads down into the secret passages with only her makeshift knife and sheer determination. And shock horror, when she gets down there are footprints, and they weren't there before, and they're going down to the hallway where Elena's tomb is. This is terrible. So, naturally, she heads on down there. But as she approaches, she can hear a man speaking. Not a woman, but a man.
Oh my gosh!
The voice is coming from a room closer than Elena's tomb. And when Selena gets there, she looks inside. It's Kane.
Huh.
Okay. Now, I must admit, I'm not overly surprised at this. I don't know about you guys, but this wasn't the most shocking thing. I understand why we were trying to shift the focus onto someone else, because otherwise maybe it would have been too obvious. You know, we were trying to throw a bit of doubt into there because Kane was the obvious choice as to who this person was, I think. I do think it was just still incredibly obvious. Like, I do understand that, like I've said previously, she has betrayed and lied to Selena several times. She knows how to use the word marks. She comes from a conquered land. I think I was swayed slightly until I read the sentence about the sacrifices to the Ridderak. Maybe there was doubt in my mind then. But when it said sacrifices to the Ridderak, they gain the person's strength, that just solidified it. Every time we see Kane, Selena says, he is bigger. You know, he looks so much stronger than he did a day ago. Every time I see him, he seems to be more mahoosive. I feel like that should have told us all we needed to know. You know, I don't think there was enough evidence to pull me in the direction of Nehemia. So I wasn't overly shocked when we found out it was Kane. All of this is solidified by the quote that I'm about to read to you. So, this is as Selena has just turned the corner and seen Kane, and he's doing this freaky whispering thing and drawing the word marks on the floor. Kane, the person who'd gotten stronger and better as the competition went on. She'd thought it was his training, but it was because he'd been using the word marks and the beast they summoned to steal the champion strength. I fear Selena's stupid. But that's okay. We still love her. Anyway, Kane summons the Ridderak, and it's this freaky creature. It's got grey skin, no hair, black fangs, a weird-shaped head. Ugh. And when it steps out of the portal that Kane has summoned it through, using the word marks, it bows to him. Submission. Ooh, Kane is its master. And Selena tries to step back, and they hear it, and they turn around, and she's like, oh no, and Kane's like, it wasn't meant to be you tonight, but this opportunity is too good to waste. Oh, looks like it's your time, Selena. Yikes! Now, I do have a few qualms with the next bit of the book. I do have a couple of questions. I feel we've got a couple of plot holes going on here. So let's discuss, and you can let me know if I'm wrong. Firstly, Selena pulls out this makeshift knife that she's been carrying around with her for this whole time, and Kane just snatches it off of her as if it's absolutely nothing.
Huh.
I know she's in shock, and he's got, like, super strength or whatever, but she is supposed to be the greatest assassin in the land. So I think surely, realistically, she would have put up a fight. Surely some of the assassin's training would have kicked in as he went for it, and she would have, like, reacted slightly to try and dodge. You know, he might have overpowered her for sure. You're telling me that he just, like, went, oop, I'll take that. And she was like, oh no, he has my knife now. I don't buy it. Then he locks her in the room with the Ridderak. He sees her, he's like, hey, it's your turn. Shuts the door, locks it, and he dips. He dusts his hands off. He's like, ha, my job here is done. And he heads off to bed. However, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are a few reasons why this doesn't add up for me. He's supposed to be using her as a sacrifice to the Ridderak, so that he can then take her strength. But my first argument against why this makes sense is, in the sacrifice spell that we read like 2 pages ago, it literally says, using the victim's mark the area around it. I'm assuming it is the victim, which means first you have to have the victim on the floor, and then you also have to have their No? He hasn't done either of those things. Selena's not prone on the ground, and he hasn't used any of her to make any sacrifice marks. So he's just summoned the Ridderak and gone, see ya, and shut the door. Because of that, I'm believing he's not going to get her strength. The Ridderak's just going to unalive her, and Kane's not going to gain anything from it. So that doesn't quite make sense to me. Another thing that further cements this that I hadn't mentioned earlier was when Selena and Kale went to look at one of the unalived competitors, she had used her best to ever do it assassin deduction power to say from the looks of it, the creature has sharpened its claws here, which meant that the person who had summoned the creature had disabled the person beforehand, then summoned the creature. Then, obviously, it had taken them out, which means that she's supposed to be disabled on the floor, no? Like, I thought we were doing this in a completely different order. None of it's really adding up, to be honest. Furthermore, why does he need to be using the tunnels to move around with the creature when he's been summoning the creature after he's incapacitated the champions? Because like I said, when Selena was looking, she was saying, looks like he incapacitated the champion and then summoned the creature, which means he wouldn't have been moving around the castle with the creature. And if he's been using the passageways, why did we not have any evidence of that earlier? The unalivings have been happening the entire time Selena knew about the passageways. So how come when she was doing her exploring earlier, there was no evidence of it then? Why is it only now that she's come to the conclusion that, they must be using the passageways and it must be Nehemia? We have the very clear footsteps moving around in there. It just doesn't add up to me. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I would really like to know what other people are thinking about this. But these things just don't quite make sense to me. So please do let me know if you have a different opinion or you've got like a different perspective on it, and maybe I just haven't thought of it in that way. But yeah, this is feeling a little bit like a plot hole to me. But anyways, enough of this. Moving on, back to the plot. Let's do it. She's about to get eaten alive by a Ridderak. Naturally, Selena is panicking because she thinks that she's about to be offed by this creature that she is locked in a room with. When suddenly, she puts two and two together and realizes that Elena's cryptic message earlier about the answer is on your right was multifaceted, because not only did she mean the answer is on your right in the poisons test, but she also means the answer is on your right freaking now. Because the passageway is on her right that leads to Elena's tomb. And in Elena's tomb is a sword, which means she has some chance of surviving this ordeal. But first, she needs to get through the door that Kane very rudely locked. Luckily, she is an assassin and also the best way to do it, so she manages to bait the Ridderak into breaking the door down for her. Genius. And she runs down into the tomb, grabs the sword, and manages to just take it out just before it's too late. But not before it manages to have a little nibble on her hand. Ow! Little does she know, the teeth of the Ridderak have like venom in, and it's very fast acting, so she just about manages to get up to her rooms before she collapses, and before she passes out, someone breaks down her door. Who could it be? Nehemia! I can't tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing, except it is a good thing, because Nehemia's like, oh my god, what happened? And then she like runs a bath and puts Selena in the bath and chants, and there are word marks everywhere. Ooh. And then Selena passes out. Great! So, Selena wakes up. And she's healed. Her hand is healed. Yay! There's some scars where it nibbled her a little bit, but she's fine. But Nehemia is sitting in her room and she wants answers. It has only been 3 hours, so Selena hasn't missed the final test. Everything's fine, but Nehemia does have questions. And Selena ends up telling her who she is, really, and all about why she's in the castle, all of that, yada, yada, yada. She's really worried that Nehemia is going to judge her for working for the king. But instead, Nehemia gives her, like, this special name that's, like, really meaningful in Ilwe culture. And she names her Elentia, which means spirit that can't be broken. So now they're bestianas again, which is cute. Selena doesn't tell Nehemia about the Ridderak, though, or about Kane or any of that stuff, which is valid, and I don't blame her. She's traumatized. Let her process first. We move very swiftly on from this to the next morning. Selena and Kale are walking down the hallway, having a little chit-chat. She hasn't told him any of this because she's thinking, it's over now. I've defeated Kane. I've defeated the Ridderak. All I have to do now is defeat Kane in the duel. What's the point in telling him I've already sorted it all out? Why don't I believe her? Anyway, just as they're having a little giggle, they turn a corner and run smack bang into the king. The king doesn't say anything to either of them, but they bow, and Selena quietly freaks out about whether or not the king knows about word marks, and also about the fact that he gives off an air of that she'd felt standing before that black void summoned by Kane. That can't be good. They move on unscathed, other than Selena's mental state, which is shot to pieces. We then jump over to Kale's POV. He is looking at the king's travel report from that long trip that he just went on, wondering why the king was the only one that came back alive. Like, why did he come back alone? This is seeming suspicious. He's said in the report that rebels had poisoned the food stores, but it's definitely a lie. Something is afoot. Chapter 45. Selena's training for the last test with Nox. Yay! And she's also trying to keep her distance from Kane, who did not seem particularly surprised to see her still alive. Alarming. I'm not quite sure how he knows that she wasn't unalived, because it's not like he was going to get her strength anyway, because he didn't do the right word mark spell. Anyway, Nox clocks that something's off with her, and he also notices the scars on her hand that are new. Okay, perceptive king. What the heck? He puts this together with the fact that she had told him to stay in his rooms the other night, and is like, you know something. And she's like, what? No, I don't. But then she not so subtly hints that she does in fact know something, and that he should leave, because apparently he won't face any repercussions if he doesn't win. And Nox is like, what do you mean? Why do I need to leave? Selena says, I'm saying that if I didn't have any other choice but to be here, if it wasn't between this and I would be halfway across Aurelia by now, and not looking back. And Nox is like, bro, how mad is your dad at you? Is it that bad? And then he's like, oh, you're not really a jewel thief, are you? And she's like, no. And after a little bit more hinting, he realizes who she really is, and his response is, you're a girl? Okay, maybe he's not as much of a feminist as we originally thought. He thanks her for warning him, and then is gone by the next morning. So now they don't need to have a final test. Now we're just on to the final duel, I guess. Dorian visits Selena again that night, and she doesn't want him to leave because she's worried Kane's gonna unalive her in her sleep, especially because she looked under her bed again earlier that day, and there were more word marks. They play chess, and instead of letting him leave, she just makes out with him until like 3 o'clock in the morning. Yay! The next day, we get a cheeky Dorian POV, and he's thinking about how the final duel is tomorrow. He's trying not to freak out about it, bless him, but he is. Someone needs to tell him she's the best to ever do it. He thinks he'd gone too far. He should never have kissed her. Because now, no matter how he might have once envisioned his future, or who he thought he'd spend it with, he couldn't imagine being with anyone else, wanting anyone else. He is down bad. No, I'm down bad crying at the gym. I don't know any of the other words. So, in a saddening turn of events, I am going to have to make this into a 3-part video, because I just have so much more to say. So yeah, I hope that you really enjoyed this. I have loved making it, and hopefully I will get that 3rd part out as soon as I possibly can. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!